So hopefully enjoy the video. Check it out. Something words. Hey guys, Brad Halleck from BHCosplay. I wanted to do a quick video showing my work in progress on my Skyrim Dragonbone armor that I'm making for my wife, which I will be debuting at Emerald City Comic Con this year. So check it out. Hopefully I'm going to see you there. This video is going to go over some of the tools that I used and some of the techniques I used to make this armor, so I hope you enjoy it. So I wanted to walk you through some of the pieces here for this Skyrim Dragonbone armor that I made for my wife. We took some creative license with the armor. I wanted to go with something that my wife would want to wear, and so this is what we came up with. It's broken up into different segments. So I've got the shoulder armor here, and it velcros in the back. I connected it all with the snaps so that it can snap on and snap off. The shoulder pieces are attached by Velcro so that those can easily come on and off if we need to. So the bra armor is actually one of my wife's old bras that I then covered in foam and did all the texturing to. And then to cover up the straps in front, I used leather. Then I, of course, did fur accents all the way around. Waist armor is two-piece. It's velcroed together, and also what I've done, I'm going to attach this thigh armor using the same kind of snap techniques I used in this other stuff. So right now they're just kind of held in place, so that they will be able to snap off just like the arm armor. And then this has got Velcro on both sides, and it also has these small Velcro pieces because I wanted the fur to come around a little bit more on the sides, but because these Velcro at this point and the fur needs to get to this point, I had to find a way to connect it without having it droop. So if I just had it connected like this would just hang down here like this. That's no good. So what I did is I attached a chunk of Velcro to the fur right there, and then another piece of Velcro on the inside of the armor. So then what I can do is connect those, and then connect this armor, and it keeps that fur up where I want it. And as you can see, added a little bit more fur in the back. Okay, and then the knee and shin armor. So again, these are those resin cast pieces that I did. This is all EVA foam. I attached the two pieces with a 2-inch thick piece of nylon webbing, and then I have my leather straps and of course my fur accents, so that when this goes on, these will connect around the back and hold them in place. And so you can see these are those two different molds I did where they're opposite directions. So those are my knee and shin armor. The remainder of this video is an in-depth look at the different techniques I used to finish this cosplay. I hope you enjoy it. I kind of feel like I'm being watched. Okay, I'm going to show you how to cut fur so that you don't make a huge mess and it also still retains its natural look. So you'll notice at the bottom of this, you can see there's kind of these wisps of hair, and it looks very natural. It doesn't look like it ends abruptly. So the wrong way to cut fur is with scissors, or to just slice directly through it. So I'll show you an example. So if I just say, okay, I want to cut my fur here, and I cut with scissors, so look at that end. It's all it basically looks like it was cut with scissors. It cuts all the fur off, it ends very abruptly right there, and that's no good. Plus, then you end up with a big fur mess. Same thing if you cut with an X-Acto knife. Say, okay, well I'm going to flip it over and I'll cut from this side. Let's say I want to make my cut here. Okay, same thing. I end up with, I didn't cut through some of them here, but you'll see, straight edge, very blunt. It does not look natural at all. So, the proper way, if you want to cut fur, so I want to maintain this kind of a natural look, but I don't need it to be this long. Say I need it about half the length. So I'm going to flip it over. The key is to cut it from the fabric side. And then what I'm going to do is, you can use any X-Acto knife. Very gently, you start your cut into that fabric, and then you just, you don't push down. You just basically, you're working to try to just cut the fabric. So I'm going to slowly work along that edge, and I'm just going to cut only the fabric. When I separate this, okay, look, see? I don't have a bunch of fur falling out, and when I flip it over, look what I have there. I still have that cool fur edge, and that's how I attach the fur to my armor. So in a few of my pieces that you saw, I didn't want all of this fur to change the length of it. I got my good old clippers out. So once it's attached to the foam, I can come through with my clippers, and let's say I just give it a quick trim like this. Okay, so yeah, that does give me a straight line, but then if I come down underneath, and it kind of blends it that direction, then I do the same thing this way. And then I can kind of blend it a little bit more, so I have some long and short hairs. Now, you know, and I would spend a little bit more time cleaning this up. You can still see it's a little bit, looks like I went over it with a razor or with a clipper, but you can clip on it and just kind of feather it and fade it the way you want, just like you do like a haircut. So if I don't like certain edges, I can do that, or if I want to give it a little bit more of a rough edge look, I can come in with the clippers and I can do the same thing there. So now I have a little bit more of like a rough edge on the fur. So using the clippers, you can adjust the length of the fur to whatever you want. So another thing that I've done with this costume to help make it so I can break it down easier and I can disassemble it is I have attached snaps to it as opposed to Velcro. Now I do use Velcro in several spots, but I thought it might look a little bit cooler and a little bit more, you know, medieval style to have what look like metal rivets, but actually what those are snaps. So what I've done is, this is a piece that goes on the arm, okay, and I've made a snap so that it will attach to the shoulder armor. And then now what I'm going to do is, because this doesn't have to be super tight, I'm just going to put a snap on here so that it'll hold it in place on the arm. Now as you can see, I've actually used leather on this instead of foam. You can use foam, but you probably want to reinforce it with some nylon webbing. So if I'm going to use like 2mm foam as a strap, what I'll do is I'll glue some nylon webbing behind it or on it to give it some strength if I want to then do something with this foam to make it look like leather or metal or whatever. This foam can tear pretty easily, so if you glue a piece of nylon webbing to the back and it's going to be strap or any type of a weight bearing, this will really help out a lot. So I've hot glued the leather onto the shoulder piece or the arm piece, and then the way I did that was I like to use about 80 grit sandpaper. And so if I know I'm going to glue it on this section, I'll just take my 80 grit sandpaper and I'll just rough up that area that needs to be glued. If you're going to be gluing on the back side, it's already roughed up, you can see that. So I don't really need to add I don't need to scuff that. But by scuffing this side that's been smoothed, it helps give a place for that glue to purchase. And as you can see, I've done that here. That's not going anywhere. So now I have these straps that I want to put snaps on so that they can clasp together. Well, I have this cool kit, which is a snap kit that you can buy online. I believe I got this thing on Amazon. It comes with the tools you need. The only thing you're going to need is some type of a hammer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out where I want my first piece. And so this is the snap. This is one part of it. So what I like to do is I kind of line it up where I want it. Okay, that looks good. And then now what I do is I just kind of push down lightly with it, and it makes an impression where I want that hole to be. So this is the hole punch tool. I'm going to adjust that hole just a hair. Just going to give it a few whacks. So now what I do is I take this piece, that back of the snap, and I push it through the leather. All right. I'm going to flip this over, and then I'm taking one of the snap pieces and I'm setting it right over the top of it. Now I'm taking this tool that allows me to connect the two pieces so that they fit by compressing the piece that came through. So I'm just going to set this here, give it a few taps, and boom. That snap is now attached to this piece, and then what I will do is I will do the other snap on the other side where I need it to be so that this piece will stay snapped together. So one of the things I wanted for this build is, since it's Dragonbone, I wanted to give it more of a look that it had some texture to it. Based on looking at the pictures that I have, it almost kind of looks a little bit like wood, where it's got some edges to it, or I guess bone that's been weathered for a while. So what I needed to do is I needed to put some marks in my foam. So using my handy dandy Dremel, I have a sanding tool on here, and this is a 120 grit. I'm going to use this tool, and I'm just going to make some vertical lines on this at varying depths to give me the effect that I want. Okay, so I know it's kind of hard to see there because of the light, but there you go. Maybe you can see it better there. So you can see now that piece of foam has some texture as opposed to what it looked at before, where it is completely smooth. So what I like to do after this is hit it with a torch, because it kind of helps melt that surface. You could use a heat gun. Now obviously be very careful if you're using a torch. So I just give it a quick light hit with the torch. But so now it's given me kind of sealed that surface. And I won't show you on this one, but I did a base coat of this Liquitex unbleached titanium. So for this project, I just used raw umber for the color that I wanted, because I wanted it to be kind of a cooler brownish, dark brown color. If you go into the warmer browns, it makes it look a little bit too much like wood. So, but again, if you're going to do something that's wood toned, or if you're going to do any type of weathering or dirt, or put a bunch of grime and stuff on your cosplays, there are 4 paints that you really want to have in your toolbox. So these are my grime things up. They've been out in the dirt for a long time. 4-pack that I use all the time. So first is raw umber, okay? Second is burnt umber. Third is raw sienna. And fourth is burnt sienna. When I use these 4 paints, these are my go-to paints for weathering. Of course, if you want to get some grime in there, like oil or grease, I use Mars Black. So I will completely cover and make sure I get in all the grooves that raw umber. Then I take my Kleenex or my cloth, and I just kind of buff it off. Now if I want it to be a little bit less in certain areas, I just buff it a little bit more. And if you want to take even more paint off, you can just use a dab of water and just kind of rub in those areas, and it'll bring that off even more. So now you can see this has gotten a nice texture that really brings out those grooves so you can see them a lot better, and it really gives me that effect that I'm looking for. Now you notice on these pieces you can see there's like a kind of a slight satin sheen to them, and that's what I wanted to go with for this material. So the way I get that is this really awesome stuff called Rust-Oleum Leak Seal. Okay? This is the clear leak seal, and that's what gives me this finish. I just spray that over the top of this. It's a rubberized coating, and it is really flexible, it bends, and it doesn't crease, and it helps protect your stuff like nobody's business. I've used this on several different cosplays, and I love it. I won't use anything else. The cool thing is it comes in different colors, and what I've found so far are the clear, which I use to seal pretty much everything. It also comes in white, which is great as a base coat for like this armor stuff that I'm doing. I'll spray and seal my foam first with this white, and then I'll do my finish work on it, my finish painting. It also comes in black, which is awesome for when you're doing metallic stuff or things that need to be turned to metal. And this other cool color is aluminum. So it's basically kind of like a shiny metal, and I used this on my Red Legion cosplay. That was the base color for the armor. I sprayed the whole thing with this aluminum and then just did a tiny bit of weathering work, but that was it. So this is the base color for my Red Legion armor, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Several parts of my armor I did resin casts of, and I used a few different techniques to do that. So this is the original piece that I designed completely out of monster clay from scratch. And the way I cast it, I used a kind of a different technique than I've used before. So what I ended up doing was using Rebound 25. So Rebound 25 is this kind of a orangey pink material. It's a tin or a platinum cure silicone. It's a little thicker than this stuff, which is the tin cure Umu 30. So you can actually brush it on. And then what you can also do when you're mixing it, so your first coat you put on, and you basically just coat it with a paintbrush, pour it over, make sure it gets in all the nooks and crannies, and then you let it set for a couple hours, and then you come back and you'll add a second coat and a third coat, and you keep adding coats. But then what you can do is you add this Thivex. So what this does, it's a thickening agent, and trust me, a little bit goes a long way. So you put a couple of drops in to your Platinum Cure Rebound 25, and then it makes it a lot thicker. It's more like frosting when you're putting it on. And what I ended up doing with this is I slush cast this. So I used the Smooth Cast 300 as my slush cast or rotocast material. And then once it's done, pull it out, and then I end up with this. So I've got this nice, hard, rigid plastic, but it's super lightweight. Now, the one thing that's important to note about resin, you've got to prime it before you paint it with acrylics. Otherwise, the acrylic paint will just peel right off. Acrylic paints don't stick very well to resin, and I found that out the hard way. Also, don't try to seal your resin with the Flex Seal first. The Flex Seal also does not like to stick to the resin because the resin is super smooth, so it peels up like almost like dead skin. Prime it with a good plastic primer first, and then go back. Now you can paint it with acrylics, and then you can seal it with Flex Seal, and you'll have no problems with the paint peeling off. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end of this video. Please make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any content. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.